Katanas are the shining treasure of Japan craftsmanship. This legendary weapon are counting the tales and myth of powerful warriors in Japanese traditional and popular culture. Warriors among the likes of Myamoto Musashi, Roronoa Zoro, or even Tokugawa Ieyasu. Hence, From Software, being a Japanese developer, had to make honor to this Eastern blade in Elden Ring. And oh boy, did they succeed. We have a total of 8 katanas in Elden Ring, with each and every one of them being unique. Passion and skills were infused into the creation of these pieces of art. And even the hardest boss in the game is wielding a katana. Hence, I thought it would be a great idea to rank every single katana for you guys. So, who do you think is going to be crowned as the best katana in Elden Ring? Let's find out.
I'll take pleasure in ensuring you regret this. How does it feel to die a failure?
You will witness true horror. Now, rot.
Well then, shall we? My fair consort eternal.
I command thee, kneel! A man cannot kill a god.
But before we get started, there are a few things that you guys must know. In patch 108, katanas got unjustifiably nerfed in their poise damage. This nerf really hit katana hard, since they were already struggling in the meta because of being slower than their other fast weapon counterparts like spears and straight sword. Katanas need a little help from Elden Ring developers to be one of the strongest weapons in the game. However, there are 2 katanas that can be played at high level. Can you guys guess which ones? Furthermore, as of today, there are virtually no reason to use a katana one-handed or two-handed. What we call the power stance moveset or the dual wielding moveset inspired by the famous samurai Myamoto Musashi is the superior choice. You should always use 2 katanas, one in each hand, because you will deal more damage, you will have a more versatile moveset, you will have access to an amazing running R1 to catch your opponent. The rolling crouch R1 also is coming very fast and dash out a lot of damage at once. And finally, you would have access to one of the best and most damaging jumping attack in the game. Because of the latter, katanas pair really well with the claw talisman to improve your jump attack power. Also, since you are going to be dealing a succession of fast hits to your opponent, katana can also benefit a lot from damaging power-up talismans like Millicent Prosthetis or the Rotten Sword Insignia. Finally, almost all katanas have a native bleed build-up, so for this reason and the one we just mentioned, they are a great tool in order to deal status effect to your opponent like bleed, cold, poison, etc. With that out of the way, let's get into the tier list, starting things off with the katana that has made a lot of people scream, and I mean that literally. The one and only River of Blood, wielded by the bloody finger Okina from the land of Reed. The blade have been infused with the blood of Moog, the demigod himself and leader of the bloody finger, during a battle between Okina and Moog himself, hence giving it its unique Ash of War, Corpse Piler. The lore for River of Blood is actually taking roots in the real-life school of swordsmith Muramasa, Sengo school, rumored to forge sword, cursed and demonic. Now, this weapon also have a real story and lore in Elden Ring. At launch, River of Blood was among the most hated or loved weapon depending on who was at the receiving end. River of Blood was broken, doing really high damage, having an absurd range, high bleed build-up, and being a roll catch monster. It went under a series of nerf and kind of buff, making the weapon a shadow of its former self. However, to my surprise, this weapon is still very good. Requiring 12 strength, 18 dex and 20 arcane to be wielded, it is the 3rd longest katanas, is dealing fire and physical damage, and is scaling best when the wielder has a lot of arcane. With high investment in arcane, you get a crazy amount of bleed buildup and your opponent will feel the pressure of the bleed upon them. You can also pair the katana with the Dragon Communion Seal, and with a few points invested into Fate, you can have access to some really useful spells like Catch Flame, Swarm of Flies, Bestial Sling, or Blood Boon. As said previously, River of Blood has a unique Ash of War that cannot be changed called Corpse Pyre. It is a shadow of its former self, yes, but it is still very good at roll catching your opponent, dealing cheap damage from afar and from a safe distance. And remember, our goal here is to inflict bleed to our opponent, and although Corpse Pyre isn't dealing too much damage, there are certain things that you cannot measure, and pressure is one of them. You can go even further by pairing River of Blood with the Lords of Blood Exaltation Talisman for more damage once bleed has been procced, and if you have no taste in fashion and you don't respect yourself, you can also use the White Mask for more damage. But personally, I respect myself too much to wear this ugly piece of shit. Honestly, a big surprise, a unique, super fun and balanced weapon, River of Blood is going to the A tier category. Moving on to the Meteoric Ore Blade. Another unique katana with the unchangeable Ash of War, Meteoric Ore Blade is the only katana that scales better with investment in strength, although it also requires some intelligence to bring out its full potential. It is found in an underground chest in Kelid and seems to be made out of the same material as Radahn's great sword. My personal theory is that this katana actually used to be wielded by Elden Ring Giga Chad Star Scourge Radahn. Think about it, it's made from the same material. It's a curved type of sword like Star Scourge's great sword. It requires strength rather than dexterity. It scales with intelligence. It is found in Kelid. It just cannot be a coincidence. With the lore out of the way, how is this weapon actually performing? I really thought this katana was going to be toilet tier. You guys know that I love the toilet tier, but to my surprise, it was a lot better and a lot more fun than I thought it would. However, this weapon has too many downsides. It is the shortest out of all the katanas. It has an okay AR, good AR, so that's a good point. It has an unchangeable Ash of War called Gravitas, and it's always a waste for a weapon to have a lock Ash of War that can also be used on any other weapon. I don't really understand why From Software is doing that. Like, if you want to give us a unique katana, give us a unique Ash of War. Gravitas is an okay Ash of War, right? But there are so many better options to be used on katanas like Stormblade, Spinning Slash, Beast Roar, Piercing Fang, Unsheath. I mean, there's so many. By the way, guys, let me know in the comment section below what are your favorite Ashes of War to use on a katana. It's very important. Unfortunately, the bad side don't outweigh the good ones. Having a cool lore, being on a strength intelligence hybrid where you can also have access to some support spells is a good thing, and having a unique, really cool R2 inspired from a real life martial arts called Kendo. Unfortunately, all those good sides are not enough to make this weapon good. C tier for you, Meteoric Ore Blade, although I had a lot of fun playing with it. But now, how about we have a look at probably the most legendary and iconic weapon in Elden Ring.
I have never known defeat.
The Hand of Malenia, a legendary weapon wielded by the mighty and deceitful demigod Malenia. Malenia was beaten by Radahn, and just like Naruto relying on QB to compensate for his mediocrity, she called upon the gods of wrath within her to destroy Radahn. However, just like what the American did in Hiroshima, by wanting to win at all costs against a formidable foe, she destroyed, contaminated, and changed forever the landscape of the whole country, traumatizing and scaring forever the people of the lands between. Okay, so now that we have assessed that Malenia is a worthless and honorless bitch, let's talk about her weapon. The good side of this weapon are, it is a katana with the highest damage on the pure dex build, and it is the second longest katana right behind Nagakiba. And those two aspects alone makes the Hand of Malenia a really strong weapon, because the more range you have on a weapon, the less risk you need to take in order to hit your opponent. Furthermore, if you have range and damage, well, you're pretty much the king of the hill. However, Hand of Malenia suffers from many downsides that will prevent her from reaching S tier. It cannot be buffed by spells, strings or grease, and it has a unique Ash of War called Waterfowl Dance. It looks cool, yes, and as we know, style should be your #1 priority, but the main problem of Waterfowl Dance is that it is too telegraphic. It is parryable, and if you have any latency with your opponent, you won't be able to hit them or to roll catch them even if you time it right. The fact that you also stay suspended in the air for such a long time is leaving you wide open to projectile attack or even jump attacks. It can be used as a pressure tool if you are using it as an element of surprise for trading against your opponent, but sadly using it against any good opponent is like signing your death warrant. I wish you were better, but A tier it will be for you, my love. On to the next one, the Serpentbone Blade. One of the more interesting katana, Serpentbone has a unique R2 and a passive poison buildup, but unlike most katanas, it does not have a native bleed buildup. And I think with just this introduction, we have put the finger on the main problem here. This weapon also cannot have its Ash of War change and is stuck with a double slash Ash of War, which is not a bad Ash of War per se, but as said previously, we can have so many better options on katanas. It also cannot be buffed with magic or consumable. It is the third shortest katana. It has an average attack rating. Actually, the attack rating is quite good, but is there anything left to save this weapon? Or you're going to tell me maybe the poison can, right? Well, I'm sad to report that even though the poison caused by Serpentbone Blade is a special type of poison called Deadly Poison, which is basically a more damaging poison, it doesn't matter because the poison buildup is really low. Also, unlike a poison affinity weapon, with the Serpentbone Blade, you cannot boost the poison buildup by investing into Arcane, which is like, I don't understand. I don't know what they were thinking. Like any other poison infused weapon, you can boost the poison buildup by leveling up Arcane, but not on this one, so whatever. Which makes it so that in 20 duels I was able to inflict poison to my opponent only 3 times, and I am an aggressive player, so maybe I'm doing something wrong. You guys can tell me in the comment section below, but compared to my poison infused Uchigatana, I had a 100% success rate with inflicting poison. It might be a different story at low level, but as a high level gamer, you cannot find any silver lining to save this weapon from going into the toilet. Yes, bye bye our first toilet tier weapon. Moving on to yet another disappointment, the DragonScale Blade. The DragonScale Blade is made out of gravelstone from the failed Nox experiment at creating a dragon from trolls. Failing miserably at creating dragon, they also failed miserably at making this weapon good. Fun fact is that this weapon was actually the first katana that I was able to use in Elden Ring back in the days during the network test in November 2021. I also made this funny invasion video where I was saving Ouroboros from impended doom, but yeah, that's besides the point. The DragonScale Blade should have been one of the best katana, but it suffered from the same problem as the Serpentbone, but it's even worse. Let me explain. This katana has so many downsides. It is the second shortest katana. It has no passive status buildup like bleed or poison. It cannot be infused with Ashes of War. It cannot be buffed by magic or consumable. It's like, what more can I say? It has a unique Ash of War, yes, called Ice Lightning Blade. That is really cool. It is basically a reskin of the Ash of War Lightning Slash, but it gives you Frostbite build-up with the lightning extra damage, so it's pretty good, right? Once buffed, it is probably one of the hardest hitting katanas. Also, if you can land the first downward slash of the Ash of War, it will true combo it to the lightning striking portion follow-up. but it is very easy to dodge, and since you have such an abysmal range with the weapon, it is even harder to pull off. Honestly, I don't know what they were thinking with this weapon. If it had bleed build up at base, and once buff you had like frostbite build up, and you had both together, that I could maybe put it into C tier, maybe B tier. But honestly, this katana is really cool, but it is also really garbage. The only thing I can see this weapon being good at is doing a Sasuke cosplay. That's pretty much it. So D tier for you. However, no one, and I mean no one, is going to be indifferent to the next weapon's might, because a storm is approaching. This guy is not happy about me using Moonveil. Yep. Yep, Moonveil, you know it, I know it, everybody knows it. Moonveil is the best katana in the game. Some love and crush it as if they were never being able to work with their own two legs, and some people want this weapon deleted from the game, and if you're using against them, they will send you hate mail, they will talk about it to their friend, they will call them mama, they just hate it. Moonveil doesn't have much lore associated to it. What we know is that it's found after defeating a magma worm in Gale Tunnel, that is at the border of Khalid and Limgrave. It is said to be the work of a Salian swordsmith, so that's pretty much all that we have. However, what is known is how busted this weapon is. Although it got nerfed a little bit in the recent patch and is a bit more balanced, the damage is still bananas. Moonveil is a dexterity and intelligence weapon, but you might as well meet the minimum requirement in dexterity and invest everything into intelligence, because the strength of this weapon doesn't really lie in its range or its raw damage, but in the versatility and power of its Ash of War, Transient, a Moonlight, which is a version of Unsheath on steroid. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger Unsheath. While using it, you can press R1 for an horizontal beam, great for dealing with opponent at close range, or R2 for a vertical beam that travels quite far, great for catching opponent rolling away from you. But you can also, use the R2 in the face of your opponent. If you hit the blade and the beam, oh my god, it is pretty much game over for your opponent. On optimized beam, you can probably two-shot people with that thing. I'm sure there's someone in the comment section below that will be able to tell me that if you do this and that with that buff, you can one-shot people. You can also use the crouch cancel technique to chain your transient moonlight attack. But it's not even the end of how good this weapon is, because the best part of it is that you have so much intelligence that you can use sorceries to complement your build, like Swift Lean Sword Shard, Star Shower, Karen Slicer, so you can be a pain in the booty to your opponent. Honestly, not too much more need to be said about Moonveil. It is the first S tier weapon on this list. Congratulations, Mr. Moonveil. But the question that is on everybody's lips is, can any other katana stand toe-to-toe against the Moonveil and reclaim the title as the best katana in Elden Ring? Well, maybe the next weapon can. Please welcome the one and only Uchigatana. Uchigatana is bringing so many good memories back from Dark Souls 3. Uchigatana was my favorite weapon. You could parry people with the katana. That was beautiful. But this is besides the point, because Uchigatana is a bit different in Elden Ring. It is a staple katana of From Software games. You can find it in Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, and finally it's back in Elden Ring. Uchigatana is one of the two katana that have infusible Ash of War. Usually in a weapon category, you have a lot of weapons that have infusible Ash of War and some of them that are unique, but for katanas it's the opposite. It is a very versatile weapon, good at what it does. You can always count on it. It has a passive bleed build-up, it has a short range, being the third shortest katana, and it has a very good AR if infused with lightning or kin on a full dexterity build. It is actually the second most damaging katana on kin infusion, right behind the hand of Malenia. You can also infuse it with any Ash of War, as I said, so it can work on a bleed build, poison build, frost build, any build that you want. My personal favorite is to run it on an arcane dexterity hybrid with on my main hand poison mist on an occult Uchigatana. but everyone can play however they want, and this is what Uchigatana is allowing you. It will never disappoint you, it is a reliable weapon, has been there since the beginning of Souls games and will stay forever in our heart. You are going into 8-year old friend. And now, I hope you all are ready for what's coming. I command thee, rise, Nagakiba! Nagakiba is the best katana in Elden Ring. Yes, I'm not afraid to say it, you can disagree all of you want in the comment section below, I don't give a fuck. Nagakiba is the weapon of choice wielded by the bloody finger hunter Yura. Yura was probably a bloody finger himself in his youth and is now hunting them down to save his lover Eleonora. Now, I don't know what was From Software thinking when designing this weapon, but Nagakiba is putting all of the other katanas to shame. It has a little bit less damage than Uchigatana, but not by much. It has the longest range out of all the katanas. Honestly, it has so much range, it might as well be a colossal weapon. One of the best strategy is to use the Nagakiba with Spinning Slash Ash of War. Because, as said in the introduction, Katana's poise damage got reduced, but Spinning Slash is always going to break your opponent's poise on the first hit of the attack. And since you have so much range, you can freely spam Spinning Slash to pressure your opponent or to roll catch them. Honestly, you can use Nagakiba on whatever build you want. You want a bleed build, whatever build you want. The same for Uchigatana, it will work. You want to use it on the Fade build, it can also work. It will be a good tool on any build. Any build, it's just beautiful. And if you go pure dex, you will have access of one of the highest damaging moveset in the game with the destructive jump attack. As I said previously, don't forget to pair it with the Claw Talisman. Nagakiba is fantastic. I don't need to oversell it to you guys. Easily an S tier weapon. Congratulations. But there is another question that remains, and this question is, which one is better between Nagakiba and Moonveil? I'm leaving the answer to this question up to you guys in the comment section below, and we are at the end of the video. This is our final ranking. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe and comment. I answer to every comment. Yes, even the mean ones. I answer to every comment on the previous video that had like 500 comments. It was Valentin. I love you guys and I see you in the next video. And by the way, the next tier list will be about Colossal Swords, so stay tuned for that.